What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan. Setting up for this episode has been entertaining would not be really the right word. So I've got a really old phone. I got all this gadgetry around me to do the show, and I've got a 3-year-old phone that the USB connection is not really good on anymore. So getting this set up has been a bunch of drama. I'm going to try really hard not to bump my phone, at which point we'll lose the connection, so I won't be able to show you everything I want to show you on how to do book research. This is kind of how I do this sort of research. It's not, when I do these little tutorials, sometimes it's because it's the right way to do things. And in a case like today, it's just an example of how one person does this so that you can get some kind of idea and a feel for how someone out there is doing it. And you can kind of pick and choose what makes sense for you to consider doing and or not. So we're going to get into that. First, let's hop into the chat over here. Say a few good mornings. Lord Jake Ryan, hello and welcome. As always, I appreciate you being here. We're going to jump right in. Actually, first,
you've got mail.
I actually got a package from eBay the other day. So let's take a look and see what this is all about. I was at the Summer Seller check-in, as you're aware, and one of the things they did was they had a post-event survey, and if you filled out the survey, you got a chance to win something. And I won this lovely eBay tote. Look at this. That's pretty rad. It's pretty similar to an IKEA bag, which is pretty nice. Be obvious when I go into the estate sale what I'm doing there, which is fine, I like it. Thank you, eBay, for sending that out. I appreciate it. Again, Summer Seller check-in was pretty cool. They're constantly posting over on the site about things that went on. They linked again to the Andrea Stairs segment where she went over the changes to feedback. So that's been a really big push over there. Black Cat Flips, good morning. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming out. Jennifer Raywad, thank you. How fun. Yeah, that's pretty cool. They gave out, supposedly there were 300 random draws for that from people who filled out the survey. I did not win any of the $25 gift cards for their little trivia game, unfortunately, so that was disappointing. I could have used an extra 25 bucks. It is nice. It might not be quite as big as the IKEA bag, but it's pretty good size, so that's going to be helpful. I'm here because I remember the notifications didn't work this time. Oh, that's a bummer. Speaking of, how many people went to the post office this morning thinking they could ship packages? I posted both to Instagram and to the community tab here that the post office would be closed today for Juneteenth, but I don't know how many people I had forgotten. Honestly, if my mailman had not reminded me when I dropped off packages on Monday, I probably would have forgotten to. So there you go. There's that. So let's get into this kind of book research thing and take a look at how I do it. I'm going to cheat a little bit. The software that I'm using is going to allow me to use my mouse and keyboard with the phone. So that hopefully will keep me from messing with the phone and messing this thing up. So, like I said, I've got a stack of books here. We're just going to take a look at a handful of them, and you can, again, you could let me know if you're getting anything out of this or if you ultimately get bored with it. And we'll kind of go from there. So this first one, Electron Probe Quantitation, a real page turner. I'm sure this book is a textbook in actually really, really nice shape. So let's get in here and see what this thing might be worth. And you may notice also there's some music playing in the background. You can let me know in the chat if you like or dislike that. I thought maybe, especially because there's going to be some dead time on the audio with this, that might be nice to have a little music playing. All right, so this first one is not the same book, so I can ignore that. But and now we're cooking with gas. Here's one. It's brand new. Mine is not brand new. It's very good. But it's one I would probably list as very good, and then I would probably note in the comments that it borders on like new, because it is actually in really good shape, but it is not brand new. So here we've got brand new at 205, brand new at 238 and some change, brand new at 238 and just a wee bit more change. So this just on the initial surface looks like probably a pretty good book. So let's do this. Let's filter by solds and see what we've got there. This is not the same book, so we have nothing really in the solds for this particular item. Let's take it one step further. Let's go back up here. We will copy this. Let's go over to product research, formerly known as Terapeak, and see if we have any better luck over there. If your app has not updated, I did find that to get this on mine, I did have to uninstall and reinstall the eBay app. So if you're struggling to get the product research tab to pop up within your selling tab, you might need to do that, just as a heads up. We'll just look generically in books. No results in the last 90 days. Let's do... Okay, no results in 3 years. So nothing has sold on eBay for this particular book within the last 3 years. That doesn't necessarily tell me a lot. It could be that this is just a really bad seller, that nobody wants this book. Or it could be that the sellers that are there, you can see they've all kind of congealed around a certain price point. They're all in that $200+ range. They may just be overpricing the market. So the next thing that I would do is look somewhere else and see what we've got. So one of my go-tos is Abe Books. They're pretty good about having a broad selection of stuff. So let's see if that'll go. Okay, so right off rip, the first one that pops up is it's in Germany, so the shipping's a little expensive, but the book is $31.13 with $48.33 of shipping. You can kind of see if you're watching on your phone, my phone probably appears pretty small. If you're watching on a 65-inch TV, it's probably the biggest phone you've ever seen. But nonetheless, so here's a book that essentially with shipping coming from Germany is going to be $79. So it is, call it 66, 67% less than everything that's listed currently on eBay. So in the case of this book, what I would probably do is price mine maybe $79 or $89.99 with a best acceptable offer of maybe $65 to hope to capture it, to try to be right in the total marketplace. If I just priced it according to what's going on eBay, according to the product research, I'm unlikely to sell it because there hasn't been a sale of this book for 3 years. So maybe it is legitimately just a bad seller and it's not going to sell at all. Maybe it's just that the market on eBay, the sellers have overpriced the market by what appears to be a pretty big margin. In this case, $79 versus $205. So that's a big jump. I would probably price this in that $80 to $89 range with maybe allow myself $15 or $20 or $25 of wiggle room on acceptable offers. That will make me significantly the cheapest one on eBay. Mine isn't new, but it's in great condition. And it puts me kind of in line with what I see elsewhere in the marketplace. So I think that would be my strategy for this particular item. Let me know what you think of that. I'm going to jump back into the chat here and answer a couple of questions, find out where I left off. Say hello to my mom, everyone. Karen Shoemaker is here. I appreciate it, Mom. Lord Jake Ryan, you reminded Media Picker, and Media Picker reminded me yesterday about the post office. See, it's all about networking. Joanna Shear made it to a live. Thanks. I appreciate you coming out. I've only been doing these for like 6 or 7 weeks, but this is a fun change of pace for my days. My mom says she's old. She can't even hear the background music. I do have it turned down pretty low, to be fair. So let's get back in here. We'll take a look at another book. Another textbook, something just called Dislocations. So This is one, because it's just a single word title, I am going to use the author as well. And see if we get anything. Okay, here's one from 1964 for 40 bucks and a penny with free shipping. When is mine from? Mine is a reprint with corrections from 1967. So it's a little newer edition, but it's got some updates. Again, because there's only one on eBay, I would probably look a little further. Let's look at the solds. I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that there probably are not any, but I could be wrong. Oh, there's one result. Let's see what we got. Okay, here's one. It's the original book from 1964. So it's the same one we just saw listed. Sold for 20 bucks. This looks like it has its dust jacket though, which would make it more valuable. And it's priced at half of what the market currently is. Let's do this experiment one further. Let's go back over to Abe Books and look for this one just for giggles. And that would appear to be the same book, and he's at $18 free shipping. Here's another one overseas that nets out to about 28 bucks. Here's one that's 30 plus shipping. So somewhere in that range of probably $20 to $40 is right. I'm not here to collect these. I'd like to get rid of them. So I would probably price mine at $29.99 plus shipping. I would guess this is probably 2 pounds and change, so it's going to cost $5.61 under the current medium mail shipping policy. So if I price it at $29.99, mine is going to net out to 35 or 36 bucks, which will make it cheaper than the one that's currently listed. Again, I would leave a window of $5 or $6 for a minimum acceptable offer. I would take 24 bucks for this plus shipping. I own it for $1.50. So that would work for me. I'll be the cheapest one on eBay, and I'll be within kind of the window of what the rest of the market looks like and what has sold previously. So again, let me know in the comments, in the chat, what you think about that one. And get back over here into the chat, see if there's anything new. Black Cat Flip says hello to my mother. Thank you. She will appreciate that. Sold a Batman comic book on the weekend for $95 plus shipping. I declined a $70 offer, and I have one left. Nice. That's, yeah, I don't hesitate to, like I said, I've got minimum offers set up, so I don't see a lot of kind of lowball offers. But one of my favorite things is to decline an offer and then sell my thing for full price within a couple of hours, which does happen from time to time. So that's pretty cool. Let's go back down here and get back into eBay, and we'll look up the next one. So this is Lincoln, His Life and Times. Author's name is Raymond. This is volume 1. I actually have both volumes of this, so we're going to look them up individually and see if it makes sense to sell them individually or as a set. These I picked up as part of the big estate sale buyout that I talked about a couple of weeks ago. You can see they had it priced for $15. That was not something that was going to make sense for me, obviously, as a seller. It ended up, when I did the bulk buy, my cost of goods sold is 91 cents on this, which is a far cry from $15. It makes me much happier. So let's look at this. Now, this is one of those that's also a little weird. So on the spine, it says Lincoln, His Life and Times. But when you look inside on the title page, it is Life and Public Services of Abraham Lincoln. So we may have to look this up 2 different ways to actually figure out what we've got here. So we're going to start with the easy one. It'd help if I could type. And I'm going to put the author's name in just to help narrow this down. So here's volume 2 from 1891. I do have volume 2. Mine looks to be different. Let's see when these were published. This was 1891, so it's the same kind of era. This is probably the one I would be looking at because it's 2 volumes. It appears to be similar. It's not exactly the same as mine. Looks like maybe a different publisher on this one, but that gives me a pretty good window. And there's enough of these currently showing on eBay that I probably would not do a lot of additional research. I'm in that kind of 25 to, and again, here's a case where you get into some really high priced ones that I just don't think probably make sense. I would likely go, I might do, mine appear to be in a little better condition than these. I would probably go $29.99 with a minimum acceptable offer of $25, which would put me in the range of these ones that are already listed, but give me an opportunity maybe to make a little bit more money because mine are in a little better shape. So this 2-volume set, again, I'm going to be into them for $1.80 and change, and hope to sell them for a minimum of $25. I'm curious. Let's look and see if there are any solds on this just for fun. I know Tom TRB Collectibles asked a few weeks ago about kind of pricing strategy, and I mentioned that sometimes I'll just use listed comps if there's a bunch of them. So here you go, 1891, 2 volumes for $35. Looks like it's also got an insert with it. So, and that's not showing up on the screen, is it? Or is it? I can't tell, it's so small. Yeah, so $35. So if I price mine $29.99, I'm right in the window. I might even go $32.99 just to try to squeeze a couple extra bucks out of it. But that's kind of in the ballpark, and I probably would not do any more research. I wouldn't look at Abe Books. I wouldn't go to Amazon. I wouldn't do product research. I'm comfortable that I'm in the right price window for these, and there are some sales fairly recently that kind of match up to that. I'm going to jump back over here to the chat. There's one new comment. Opera Annie on eBay. Hi, welcome for coming out. I'm wondering lately if it would make sense for me to offer free shipping on books since there's not that much difference in price for media mail if my buyer's on the West Coast. Is that good logic? You can do that. I talked about this, several times, but a couple years ago when the post office announced that they were going to do price hikes in the media mail category twice a year, I just made the decision that free shipping was not going to work for me any longer because within a couple of years, those prices, I would have to go in and adjust all of my retail prices to kind of keep up with the increase in shipping. This next one that's coming up in July, on July 14th, is fully 10% or more, depending on the tier. So it's a pretty expensive jump. Again, everybody gets to do their own decisions on how they run their business. I made the decision that continuing with free shipping just didn't make sense for me because the price increases were coming too fast and too furious to make sense, and I didn't want to absorb all those increases. Now that I offer free shipping on items $60 or more, I've been getting international buyers, which I haven't had since last year. There you go. My cat says hi. Hello. I was wondering what that was all about. That makes sense. I appreciate that. Again, a lot of people like free shipping, and Amazon has kind of made that the go-to with their free shipping. And although here's a little rant on the side. So the last 3 things I've ordered from Amazon, when I ordered them, I got the little pop-up that said, get next day delivery if you order in the next 9 hours and whatever. And I went ahead and ordered the item, and 2 of the last 3 actually took 2 days to ship. So they're not, I talk about overpromise, underpromise, and overdeliver all the time, and Amazon is kind of doing the opposite. They're overpromising and underdelivering. 2 of the last 3 things I've ordered on Amazon have actually been late. Still, 2 days is not the end of the world, first world problems, right? But when you tell me you're going to do something, I feel like you probably ought to do it. So let's do another book here. Another real page turner. Transistor Circuits and Applications, 2nd edition. I talk about these all the time. I love these old textbooks. They're not fast sellers typically, but they can bring pretty good money. If you've got the wherewithal to afford to buy them and store them, they can be pretty good. Now watch this, and it'll be like a $5 book, now that I've said that. But Nailed it. $8.79 with free shipping. So that's, let me see. Let's go on down here. That one, see, now that one I would probably ignore. If you're looking at, again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see here, it is the Prentice Hall series in electronics. So it is the same book, but this person does not have a photo of the book. They've just got a blank generic thing. They have no photos listed. They've actually got pretty good feedback, but they don't have enough information here for me to feel like this is probably a competitive listing. So I would probably ignore that one. So I would go on down here, Transistor Circuits and Applications by Lawrence G. Cowles. That's who my guy is here. This one is $14.09 plus shipping. It is looks like a different version. Maybe that's a first edition. This is a second edition, but I'm starting to get into some people that have got similar books and similar listings. This book is in really good shape, so I would probably put this up at, let's see if there's any solds just for giggles. Any bets? One result. Okay, so it looks like the right book, but it's also got its dust jacket. It's at $25 with free shipping, which means it's probably $20 because this is going to be over probably in the £2 rate, so it's going to cost about $6 to ship. So I would probably list this for $17.99 with a minimum acceptable offer of $14. Again, it's a book that I bought in a big collection. I own this for like $1.50, so I would make net 10 times my money when this thing sells. I'm good with that. I would do that. So that puts me in the window, and I would probably price it at about that number. And again, there's enough examples there on eBay that I would not feel compelled to look any further for that one. Joanna Shear, I charge for shipping because I don't want to have to worry about that with shipping increases or offers. Right. It just makes it's nice and easy. And if I'm one that when I'm searching for something, I change my sort to lowest price with shipping. So that accounts for the fact that some are offering shipping and some are offering free shipping. I personally don't care if the shipping is free or not. I just want to know what my total gross price is going to be. If it's $14.99 plus $5 in shipping, or it's $19.99 free shipping, it's the same cost to me. So that's when I search, that's how I do it. And that's kind of the strategy that I use when I sell, is I assume that a lot of people are going to look for the cheapest total offer, and I try to price competitively, even knowing I'm going to add shipping. Is there potentially a window of time down the road where mine is a little overpriced because shipping has gone up twice a year? Maybe. But I don't worry about that quite as much going down the road. Let's do another one. What do we got here? Old book, Complete German Grammar. This is an old kind of antique book published by A.S. Barnes and Company. It's got some notations in it. Copyright is 1881. So this is a nice old book. It's actually in pretty good shape. Not much wear on the cover. The pages are a little bit tanned, but not bad. Remember, a couple weeks ago, we did that episode on book terminology. This is one that I would describe as lightly tanned. They're not pure white, but they're not like dark tan. So I would call this, for its age, I would say this is in good condition. I mean, there's very little shelf wear. So this is again, we'll see if it has any value or not, but it looks like a pretty decent book. And I know my mom said she couldn't hear the music, but if anybody else can hear the music or not, let me know and I can turn it up or turn it down if it's too loud. It sounds great in my headphones. Okay, so here's a bunch that are not what I'm looking for because these are new books. So let's filter this. I'm going to go to Antiquarian and Collectibles because this is a book from the 1800s. There are 6 results. Here's my book. Mine is in better shape than this. And again, this is a case where it looks like there are several similar books. I might be inclined to actually go a little higher. I'm not going to go 285 on mine. But this appears to be the exact same book. old vintage book, let me know in the chat. Is that terminology you use in your listings? I typically do not. I'm going to use the book title, the date it was published, the author, if it's from a particular series, the year. That kind of information to me is a lot more relevant. I'm going to turn the music up a little bit for Black Cat Flips here and see if you can hear it. I don't want it to be so loud that it like distracts, but but that's the kind of information that I put in. I know a lot of people like the keywords of vintage or antique, but I don't know that they're particularly helpful for me with books. So because there is only one here like mine, $29.99 plus shipping, I think he's probably high on the shipping. So my initial thought is that $29.99 is probably in the ballpark, but let's just go over again to Abe Books and have a look. And I'm going to put in, just for giggles, this is on the cover. It says Workman's Modern Languages, Worman's rather. So I'm going to put that in just to see if I can narrow this search a little bit. I'm not going to put the whole thing in, just Worman's is probably enough, and see if we get any matches. There are only 2 that even come up close to that. They are not the same book, so that's not great. Let's just do it the old way. And this will probably return 1,000,000 books. So let's go in and we'll filter. I've got a hardcover and it's used. Let's try these. None of these are the right one. Oh, there we go. That's close, but that's not the right one. We're still not finding anything. I'm going to do one more search in here just to make myself comfortable. The author is actually James Worman. I'm just going to use his last name here. And again, I'm getting a lot of random matches. Let's filter this again. There's only 4 listed as used, so that ought to narrow it down. So it doesn't look like anybody over on Abe has one of these. So it's in pretty limited supply. So I've got just this one dude or lady who's your reseller for this book, 1868. Mine is, the copyright date says 1868-1881. So this is a little bit later version of this. $29.99 plus shipping probably looks like the number to me. Again, I'm not here trying to collect these. I want to get rid of it. That would make me competitive. I'll probably actually be $1 less than this guy. I accept offers on everything. This person is not accepting offers. So if someone happens to be looking for this book, I will be competitively priced. He's got 3 pictures. I'm going to have a dozen. I'm going to accept offers. I'm going to be cheaper right off rip. This is probably not a fast seller, but if someone does come along looking for it, I will have arguably the most competitive and the best looking listing in terms of having all that stuff. So let's go back up here into the chat. Once again, Black Cat Flips, that's a pretty vague description. Yeah, some of the descriptions that you see, and when you go into like item descriptions, I find a lot of times they're blank. Nobody puts anything in there, and I just find personally that putting some information in there about the condition of the book and explaining what it is, what kind of shape it's in, how I'm going to ship it, all of those things I think make, for me at least as a buyer, they make a difference. So I always try to put those in there. Operating on eBay, if you list in the antique category, then I'm thinking you don't need keywords in the title like antique or vintage. That would be my feeling as well. This is clearly, it's in the antique and collectibles category. It's a book from the 1800s. If I put the date in there, that should tip you off that it is vintage or antique. I will check the vintage box in item specifics because I know that eBay recognizes those things. in their search algorithm. So I will do that, but I tend to try to focus on again, this is just my opinion, what I feel are more relevant keywords. Vintage is just too broad. It means too many things to too many different people. So Big Dre, this month I sold a typewriter, a sewing machine, a CD changer within hours of listing. Other sellers had these items up months before me, but I used dynamic promoted listings and now free shipping. Yep, I've said this before, and I was, for those of you who've been around a while, I was not a big proponent of eBay's promoted listings initially. It felt like a cash grab, and it still kind of does, because my average fee percentage overall has gone from like 14% to 20%. So that's not great. I don't like paying extra money. But the way eBay has set up right now, you could make the argument that they're just trying to get more money out of you, but they have created these tools and this ecosystem. And if you don't want to participate in that, I think you run the risk of not doing as much business. Now, as I've said, I'm not going to do pay-per-click either on-site or off-site because I just think that model doesn't work for my business. But the promoted listing standard has been very, very good for me. My impressions went from hundreds of thousands a month to millions a month. My sales increased probably 8 to 10%. So it wasn't the 40% that they were claiming it would, but it was a noticeable jump, and it has continued to be good to this day. So I get that you don't want to give any of these sites any more money than you have to, but the way it's set up right now, if you're not using at least some of those tools, your listings may not be getting seen like you would like. And I see there's videos on YouTube all the time, are you being shadow banned or your listings being suppressed? I don't actually think that is the case. I think what's happening is that you are not using those tools, and someone like me or Big Dre is using those tools, and we're getting preferential treatment because we're paying for it, to be fair. But that's just how the system is working these days. So my listings are put on the very top of the list. Yeah, absolutely. And they're showing in other places as well, which if someone's looking for something similar, it's probably popping up. So those are very helpful. I accepted offers on all 3 sales for a total of $350, paid only $40 for all of it. That's awesome. That's how we do it. Good morning from California. Welcome, Callie Debs. Miss Lachey Resells, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you. I missed you last week, actually. What do we got? Where are we at on time here? We're only at 35 minutes. Let's do another one. So part of the drama of setting all this up, I didn't want to kind of do it this way. I wanted to have a second camera set up so I had a little more room to work. And my computer just quite wouldn't handle the second camera. So I've got a little second camera now. I am going to set up a little video / podcast station over in the back cave in the work area, not in the actual YouTube / podcast studio. So maybe next week or the following week, that will all be set up. And rather than doing it from this space, I'll just be doing some listings and we can chat instead of having a very specific topic. So you can let me know if that is of interest. I know Tom at TRB Collectibles had mentioned that he would be interested in seeing that. Black Cat Flips, I chose not to do promoted closet on Poshmark and have seen a definite decline in sales. I've heard that from several people. The other thing that concerns me, and again, this is anecdotal, but I've noticed there have been a couple of times where I would participate in an eBay promotional offer. So they would give you whatever, $50 credit to use something, and I would use that credit. And then when that program stopped and I stopped doing whatever it was, it seemed like everything else for a time period fell off. It was like you were being punished, like the time window where I don't have items on sale. Every month I'm running like clearance stuff. If I go more than a couple of days without that, it seems like the algorithm, again, I'm sure it's not, but it feels like it's punishing me for having stopped doing something that I was doing. Let me know if you've had that experience, but it's just kind of weird that you do this thing and then you stop and all of a sudden, like even your regular sales and your regular views seem to crater. It's a weird phenomenon. Again, it's their sandbox, and when you're using tools versus not, you're going to get those kind of results. But I hate feeling like They're punishing me because I tried something and it didn't work for me, and then I got out of it. So I'm generally at work during this time, so it depends on what's happening. I get it. Absolutely. I assume you are a part-time seller, Mr. Lachey, which is a fantastic way, obviously, to make some extra cash. Let's get back down here and do one more. What have I got here? Old book, Travels in Philadelphia by Christopher Morley. This one is interesting because in the back, it actually also has a couple of little travel brochures. So these are things, a lot of times in these old books, you'll find all kinds of random stuff that it's not part of this book. These are from Philadelphia, but they were not part of this book. Somebody just stuck them in here. I didn't know these were in here when I paid for the lot. So these two items are essentially free to me, and they may have some value. So these are things that I would look up as well, separate from this book. But let's do this book. This one is not in particularly great shape. A lot of staining on the cover. It's very dirty. It's going to need some cleanup. As I talked about, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, I don't typically repair books, but I will try to clean them up. Let's just do it with the title and see if we get anything. That's a whole bunch. Let's try Antiquarian and Collectible. Now we're at 40 results. None of that looks like what I've got here. There we go. Travels in Philadelphia, Christopher Morley, 1921. Mine is a 1921 reprint, so this is the same book. Mine is actually not in as good a shape as that one. That one's priced at $11 plus shipping. This one you can see the cover is actually pulling away from the spine. The front end paper with the frontispiece is separated, so this one's a little rough. Is it worth listing? I own it for 91 cents. The lowest price one here is $11 plus shipping. I would probably put this thing up at like $7.99 or best offer with a minimum acceptable best offer of like $4 or $5 and just hope to move it. If I can get $7 out of this, even after the fees, even if I pay full pop, let's say I pay 20% on the $8 plus the $4 shipping, I'm going to pay $2.50 in fees. I own the book for less than $1, so $3.50. I'm selling it for $7. I'm going to double my money. I would take that. I would sell this for $7.99 plus shipping. I would sell it for $5 plus shipping. So this is one I would list, but this is not going to make the what sold recap at the end of the week. Let me hop back in here into the chat real quick. Miss Lachey, part-time seller. Cool. Let me know what kind of stuff you sell. Black Cat Flips. Oh, cool. Operating on eBay. Remember that you put items on clearance after they've been listed for a long time, but I can't remember if you ever do the end listing sell similar strategy on any of them. I actually do not. I know a lot of sellers swear by that. I've seen others that say it doesn't have any impact whatsoever. I generally just don't do that. I have tiered discounts. Anything that's over a year old every month goes on sale at some level of discount. Sometimes it's as low as 15%. Next month, I think I'm really going to try to do a blowout on the really old items, and I'll probably do 60 or 70% just to try to. I've been watching Dixon's Pickens, and he's been selling a lot of old dead inventory for $1 or $2. If I could clear out some old inventory at 70% off, even if I break even on it, the lots have long since paid for themselves. It'll free up some space. It'll free up some cash. So that if you're in the mood to shop next month, I'm going to have some pretty significant deals. Black Cat Flips. I found a JFK funeral card in a missile once and was able to sell it for $10. Sold before the missile did. Yeah, you'll find that a lot of times this stuff is, I find a lot of like old prayer cards, which there are people who collect those, and I will generally individually, they can be a little rough. I've sold a couple of these JFK funeral cards that you're talking about as well, and they do pretty well. But a lot of the prayer cards, there are people who collect those, and I'll just kind of set them off to the side until I get 4, 5, 6, whatever, and then I'll do a lot. They're free to me. They were just stuck in a book. So if I can get 6, 8, $10 out of them, plus shipping, heck yeah, I'm all about it. Have you ever had something that was too trash to list? Yes. Yesterday. So this big lot of old antique books I bought, you could make the argument that Travels in Philadelphia or whatever is pretty trashed. But it's repairable. It's readable. It looks like all the pages are there just with a quick look through it. So it's something that somebody could buy for, again, $5, $6, $7 and have something that they would want that would be worthwhile. In that lot, however, there were some books that I bought that the covers were completely missing. They were missing big chunks of pages. In one case, I did talk about that on Monday's podcast. I sold a book. It should have been probably a $200 book, but 30 pages had been removed from it. I could have thrown it away, I guess, but I thought I would just take a chance on it. I priced it at $24.99, which was obviously way below market, but it was missing 30 pages. So not quite 8% of the pages of the book had been cut out for whatever reason. I decided, why not list it? Go ahead and throw it up and see what happens. And within 2 weeks, it sold for $25. If it had been complete and sold for $199, that would have been a heck of a lot more fun. But I made $25 gross on an item that I owned for 91 cents. And I got rid of it and flipped it even after the fees and everything. I made 20 times my money on that book. So it depends, I guess, is the point. If the cover is completely gone, like the one I had yesterday, there was no cover. It was missing pages up through like the copyright page. That's not a book I'm going to list. That's just a discard and I'll write it off. But if they're damaged but not destroyed, I guess would be kind of the bottom line for me, I will go ahead and list them. Mainly books and other media, hard goods, and men's clothing. Nice mix. I love old hats. If I'm out at a sale, especially garage sales, I did this last summer. I walked into this garage sale and they had like 80 vintage like railroading hats, like Chessie System and Norfolk Southern and Southern Railway. And I bought them all. I bought the whole, I'm like, what do you take for all of these hats? I ended up getting them for like $1.50 a piece. And I think the lowest price that any one of them sold for was $12 or $15. And some of them brought $30, $40. So I love that kind of stuff. It's not in my normal wheelhouse. But when I find them and can get a good deal on them, I absolutely love it. Hollywood Reseller is, in the past, were there rumors that USPS would be getting rid of media mail in the future? Is there any truth to that claim? They have not said anything, but I have conjectured on this channel on multiple occasions just because of the convergence of the pricing. If you look right now, under 4 ounces, in a lot of cases for zones that are close to you, Ground Advantage is actually cheaper than media mail. When you get into, if you're using eBay labels or I use Pirate Ship and you get the cubic rate, there are, even in some heavier weights, in say the maybe 6 to 10 pound range, there are a lot of instances currently where with the Ground Advantage cubic rate that's available, Ground Advantage is cheaper than media mail. Ground Advantage, my understanding is from the announcement they made last month, Ground Advantage is not going to get a price increase in July. Media mail, as I just mentioned, is going up 10%. In some cases, it's more than that. Like the base level price right now is $4.13. It's going to $4.63. That's more like 12 or 13%. You're going to see a lot more convergence, even at higher rates. Probably for some zones, it still won't make sense if you're shipping to Zone 8 or Zone 9, or heaven forbid, the Hawaii, Alaska Zone 10 rate with Ground Advantage. Those probably will still be more expensive. But there's so much convergence on price that I would not be at all surprised if at some point in the future media mail goes away. The other issue being there is a ton of abuse in media mail. I mentioned, I don't know what it was, a couple of months ago on a show. I mean, I've gotten hats, I've gotten T-shirts, I've gotten all kinds of stuff that people have shipped to me by media mail. So there's a significant amount of loss going on in media mail just through outright fraud. So again, this is just me, a guy in my basement talking smack, but I would not be at all surprised if they don't ultimately get rid of media mail. If anybody's listening that works for the post office and's got some inside scoop, you can feel free to let us know. Miss Lachey resells hats are great and easy. I don't find many good ones, but I snatch them up when I do see them. Yeah, I will go weeks without finding anything that's good or anything that's priced where a reseller could make money on it. You know, I was at a sale the other day. There were some really cool hats, but they wanted like $6 a piece for them. That just doesn't make sense. If I can't get them for a couple of bucks, they're going to sell online for 12, 15, maybe plus shipping. If I'm into them for $6, I could squeak out a little bit of money, but I would rather have that money invested somewhere else personally. So let's do one of these little brochures that we found just for the heck of it. So this is, if you can see that, Colonial Walks in the Heart of Old Philadelphia. Just curious. Let me get this chat thing off of here. So there's no matches for that right off the bat. Let's just look at solds for giggles. I would assume probably not, but let me try to fix this. Still got a big bag of nothing. No solds. I'm being real optimistic. I'm going to go look in product research. Yeah, there we go. No results in all categories. Going back 3 years. So for giggles, again, I'm going to look at a books. This is not necessarily something I would expect to find over there, but I'm really struggling to type Philadelphia for some reason. I should be cutting and pasting this. Here we go. Colonial Walks in the Heart of Old Philadelphia. $17 plus. It looks like they're charging first class shipping on this. Media mail rates, if you're not familiar, as long as it's got at least 8 pages, it qualifies for media mail. This definitely has. It says 24 pages, so you could ship this media mail. This is one of those things that I would probably list as shipping by media mail. It's probably, I will put a cardboard stiffener in this to help protect it when I ship it. It will probably end up right around 4 ounces. Media mail. I'm in Ohio. Media mail would probably still be cheaper to California. Ground Advantage will probably be cheaper close to me, and I'll just leave it as media mail. And if it ends up, I can ship it for like $3.96 with Ground Advantage. That's what I'll do. The customer will get it a little quicker, and I'll save a couple of cents, make up for the fees that eBay's charging on my shipping. So this thing, free in the back of a book. There's one listed. It's $17 plus shipping. I would probably price this thing at, I might do $19.99 plus media mail shipping with a minimum acceptable offer of $17. It's a cool old booklet, free to me. A chance to make 17 or $18 on it. Why not? Why wouldn't you throw it up there? So this is the kind of stuff I wish I had more often, where like $100 bills would be found in the back of a book, but I'll take this. So that's not a bad little find. Let's do this other one just for fun. I'm just going to start on eBooks with this one. This is Historic Trails from Philadelphia. And I typed Philadelphia right off the bat. Quite a bit of stuff that's similar. Pretty broad search. That's the historic and trails in Philadelphia is going to return a lot of results, I guess. Let's see if we can filter this. It's definitely used, and it's definitely soft cover. Soft cover. It's definitely 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 soft cover And I wish it was this one, $5,500. That would be sweet, wouldn't it? While you're here in the chat, what's the highest dollar amount single sale you've ever had? Let me know in the chat. Let's go back here. Yeah, it won't let me do that from the... So weird. Using this software, you can't like highlight things. Nothing. Some old guidebooks. There's some stuff that's close. These are all like actual books. Let's do solds one more time just for fun. Probably nothing. Yeah, no exact matches. So I would probably, this is another one that I would probably say it's just like the other one. I found a comp on the other one. I would use that comp kind of as a surrogate for this one. I would price both of these at $19.99 or best acceptable offer, $16-17. Medium mail shipping at $413. Potentially use ground advantage if it's closer. Here's essentially $40 worth of potential retail sales that I don't have any money in. So fun. I like it. I like it a lot. Let's hop back into the chat here. We're at 53 minutes, so I'm going to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. So speak now or forever hold your peace if you have some things you'd like to say. I include a promotional bookmark for some of my self-published books on Amazon when I ship an item, but I don't take the risk when shipping media mail. That's Operani on eBay saying that. Yeah, I looked once at like all of the requirements for media mail, and it looked like you can't include like correspondence and some other stuff, but it looked like you could add like one thing. I'd have to go back and look at it again. It's been a long time. To a shipment and still not fall afoul of the regulations. I've never had an issue. I've never been advised that I've had anything that got inspected or anything. They have the right with media mail shipping. If you weren't aware of that, the post office does reserve the right to inspect anything that gets sent out that way. I can't imagine, given all the struggles they're currently going through, just delivering the mail, that they've got time to inspect a lot of packages. Not suggesting that you commit fraud because they're not able to look at everything, but it's just an observation. Big Dre, I paid off one of my credit cards I used for purchasing inventory today. I won't go sourcing again until I pay the other one off. If you've got enough stuff that you can do that, that is awesome. Congratulations on paying it off. I've been pretty fortunate. I have not had to like borrow money to do even a big bulk purchase. I've had enough cash on hand from just the business operations to be able to afford just about anything that I wanted to buy. Probably the only exception would have been 2 summers ago now. It's been, gosh, it's hard to believe, man. Time flies when you get old. I bought that 15,000 book lot that I talk about, and she and I made an arrangement where I just went out once a week and did 2 SUV loads of stuff, and I gave her whatever it amounted to, a couple $100 a week. If I had to bite all of that off in one go and pick it all up, I probably would have had to put that on a credit card because it just would have been out of my realm of possibility on cash flow. But because it worked for both of us in terms of timing to do it over the course of probably 3 months, I didn't have to do that to buy all those books. So that was great. Hollywood Reseller, what are your thoughts on selling 4-tracks on eBay? Is it worth it? Help me out. Define 4-tracks. Are you talking about some kind of tapes, or do you mean 8-tracks? The old, I've shown my age, 8-track tapes, which I had a bunch of as a youngin'. My only concern with them is a lot of them are not in great shape, and I think you run the risk of having some bad feedback or some bad experiences if you can find some that are in really great shape. But 8-tracks were notorious for, they had a splice. I don't know if you're familiar with how they operated. I spent a lot of time in the audio business. They had a splice that essentially held that tape together, and that splice was where the track changed. And that splice was notorious for being weak and failing. even when they were relatively new. Now most 8-tracks are probably coming up on 40 or 50 years old. So I don't know. I've got a few that I have listed, but yeah. Big Dre recently switched to using credit cards to avoid overspending, as my 10 by 10 storage unit has over 1,000 items right now. Yeah, my garage is probably about that size, and it's probably got 2,000 or 3,000 items in it. I mentioned, I think in the podcast the other night, that I did just cut a deal to lease another 250 odd square feet of my main warehouse space because I've bought so much stuff recently. I just want a cushion to be able to move into when I've got these extra couple thousand things I need to list. Normally, I am selling as much as I'm listing, so it's kind of a break even, but it's going to be nice to just have an extra space where I can just start some new books, or some new boxes rather, and not have to worry about figuring out where I'm going to put all this stuff. Operating on eBay, I envy all getting to go sourcing. I have enough stuff as I declutter. I won't be able to source for at least a year. Theoretically, I could go months and not source, but a lot of the stuff, so I do a lot of bulk buys, obviously. I talk about that all the time, but I don't pre-sort the stuff specifically, but I do try when I throw these things in the tubs to kind of segregate the stuff that I think is going to be either higher value or quicker flips from the stuff that I think is going to be a little more difficult to get rid of. And those are the items, I will set those kind of to the back, and I won't worry about those until like the winter when it gets slow with sourcing and I can't go out. So even like last week, like I just said, I've got a couple thousand things in the garage that I could list right now, but I still went sourcing on Friday, and I bought a lot of these like mechanical engineering, and I bought a whole bunch of like electron microscope and physics books. I got them for about $1.50 a piece. I bought, 122 of them, and they're all pretty good value. The one that we had there that was like $8 or whatever, notwithstanding. Most of them, I've got some stuff that I've listed recently that's almost $500, which is a lot of fun if they sell. That I own for $1.50. So I will still go out and source and try to, again, separate out the really high value stuff and focus on that first. And then the lower value stuff I will kind of get to as I get to it. I suppose at some point my garage is going to be full and I'm going to have to stop doing that or start listing more. But 4-track, I think, are also known as reels, similar to 8-tracks. And then there's the other ones that look like rolls. Yeah, I have seen like the reel-to-reel tapes. I generally don't look at the pre-recorded ones all that often, but if I find like new sealed blank, like 3M or Sony reel-to-reel tape, I will snap those up if I can get them for the right price, because there are still people who like to record in that format. So I've got a few of those listed actually right now. Rebel Junk, I'll be back to watch the whole show. Replay crew, hey, I appreciate it. This does get actually a surprising number of replays, which I appreciate very much. If you're one that's watching on replay and you've made it to the hour mark, thank you. You're a trooper. And if you're here live, thank you. You're a trooper as well. We are at that hour mark, so I'm going to solicit one last round of chat comments. If you have anything else you would like to discuss, again, speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, not forever, just till next week, right? I'll be back next week, good Lord willing, right? And so will you, I hope. And I didn't see anybody post about what their biggest individual sale was. So you've got one last chance to do that. Mine was, for those of you keeping track at home, I had a book that was from the early 1900s collection of speeches that I'd bought at a garage sale for like $1 that sold for $480 some. So that was a lot of fun. We'd like to find some more of those. Operating on eBay. Thanks, Ryan. Looking forward to seeing the Bat Cave next week. Hopefully I've had to order a couple more cables and stuff. So if everything gets here, Amazon, I'm looking at you. I'll try to get that set up over the weekend, and maybe next week's show, I'll just be doing some listing, and we'll just chat, and I'll have some music going. Let me know again. Was the music loud enough? Was it too loud? Was it annoying? Did you like it? Would appreciate, again, if you're watching the replay, you can let me know in the comments as well. If you have questions or comments, please leave them and I will answer them there or in a future episode as well. Hollywood Reseller, awesome live, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love the interaction, like responding to comments and saving them for future episodes of the main podcast is cool, but this kind of immediate interaction has been really fun. I've really enjoyed doing these, and I hope you've gotten something from it. If you did, hey, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button and share this with anyone that you know that might find this kind of content interesting. Hollywood Reseller, the music was good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Mine was a Proto Torque multiplier sold for $305. Nice. Black Cat flips. That's a nice flip. I don't do, obviously, if you've followed me any length of time, you don't see a lot of plus $100 stuff. There'll be a few here and there, but I do a lot of stuff in that $20 to $100 range. Still no idea what it does, but the boyfriend said it was a good pickup. There you go. And I found that to be true too. I once picked up, I don't have any idea what these were. They were in a box at an estate sale, and they were it was a weird looking little piece of hardware of some sort. So me being curious, I looked them up on some kind of fuse, I think. I looked them up and they were selling for like $90 a pop, and they were in a 50-cent box at this garage sale. I'm like, well, heck yeah, I'll buy. There were 4 of them in there, so it was $2 for all of them. I listed them on eBay for like $89.99 individually. I had somebody that bought all 4 of them right away. It was like a $300+ sale, just like that, for $2. So yeah, random stuff. I'm the same way with books. If I'm at a sale, I've learned, obviously, from doing this a while now, 5 years full time. There are some types of books that I'm definitely looking for, but if I just see kind of a random screwball title, something that looks really unfamiliar or unusual, I will take the time to look it up. And I have found tons of really good scores like that, books that obviously people had passed over because it didn't look like something popular or it didn't look like anything special, but it was just weird enough to catch my eye. Those are the kind of things that you're not going to have a lot of competition on, because not a lot of people are going to have it. And that has been really, really helpful to me. I did that once. I went into a Valley Thrift in Dayton. I was leaving an estate sale and I happened to be driving by the thrift store. So I stopped in, and unfortunately they had almost completely gotten rid of books. There was almost nothing there. One small shelf. They used to have a 30-foot row, both sides, just full of books. When I went in, they had like one 4-foot wide shelving section with books left. And I was like, man, that's disappointing. But I found this random book from the 1960s. Didn't look like anything special, but it was a weird title. It just caught my eye. I looked it up. It was worth $50. I bought it. I sold it within a week. I owned it for $1. So those weird things can be really, really good. Big Dre sold a Native American blanket last year with a horse pattern for $480 plus shipping, paid $4 for it. Yep, those are the fun ones. You can find something really unusual, interesting. I talked about this estate sale where I got all these technical books, and I posted this over on Instagram and on my Facebook, that I was at this sale and I'm making my little stack of books, and this guy, one of the workers, walked up to me. And he's like, are you the guy on YouTube that's always talking about books? As I said on my Facebook post, I felt like a rock star. That was such, this guy recognized, he was a worker there. And I said, yeah, I do. I appreciate you watching. And he says, I really appreciate what you do, because we have these sales and we don't have the time to look up all these books. So we just put them out here for a couple of bucks, and you kind of trying to raise the awareness that there's value in them helps us out quite a bit. And I said, well, I appreciate that. That's kind of what I do. I had seen off on another tangent over during the summer seller check-in, somebody commented in the chat, I don't understand why resellers help their competition, other resellers, by giving them advice. And I just thought that was really short-sighted. There is plenty of opportunity out there for all of us. So I don't have any problem sharing the things I sell and the tips and the tricks. It's my good deed for the week. But anyway, at the end of this sale, I've got my stack. It's 122 books, and we're going through the shenanigans, and he's adding them up, and he says, well, this should be like $250 odd. He said, I'll do it for $200 even, if that works for you. And I said, yeah, that's perfect. And then he says, so what do you think you've got here? And I had researched all of them. I knew just about within a window what I thought I had retail value. And I said, now bear in mind, some of these may not ever sell, and some of them are going to take potentially a long time to sell. But do you really want to know what I think the retail value of these books is? And he says, yeah, guys, we don't have time to mess with them anyway. And my best guess is that it was probably about $6,000 worth of retail listing value that they were selling me for $200. So again, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, the lady that told me nobody buys books anymore. Somebody's buying them, and there is some killer value out there. Hollywood reseller mine was a random used hat for $23 and free shipping. See those random things like these little booklets that I didn't even know I bought? There's $40 potentially there. Now, again, maybe an item that doesn't sell or that takes a horribly long time to sell, but they're just weird enough that somebody might be interested in them and might be looking for them. Not even necessarily by title, but you put in some good keywords in your listing and you might pop something $40 for nothing. Rebel Junk, my fave sale ever was a vintage Chanel belt, $1 at Goodwill, sold for $500. It was not my style, but it was eye-catching. Yeah, and that's the kind of... And I talked about this when I was in retail management, managing salespeople, and I've talked about it on this show. I try not to judge what you as a viewer or a listener or a buyer, potential buyer, might be interested in. Just because it's not my style, I have no interest whatsoever in a book from 1812. It's cool, it's interesting, whatever, but it's not something I'm going to read. Give me the pulp science fiction from the 50s. Now you're talking. But these are not things that I particularly am interested in owning or collecting, but I know there are people who do and will, and that's how you make money. It's not about finding the things that you want or that you like. It's about finding things that other people might want or like. So that, my friends, I think that's going to put a wrap on it. We're at about an hour and 10. I appreciate everybody coming out. Again, if you can do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. Feel free to share this with anyone that you think might appreciate coming out and hanging out. If you get something out of it, that would be terrific. Let me get into I have so many gadgets now. It's crazy. Anyway, thanks so much for coming out, and we will see you again next week. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.